The most destructive act in the book of Judges wasn't committed by an army. It was committed by a blind man chained in the dark, and it wasn't even his idea. Samson, judge of Israel for 20 years. The kind of man whose reputation arrives before he does. He killed a lion with his hands, rooted an army with a jawbone, burned an entire harvest by tying torches to foxes. By every metric available, he was the most physically dangerous individual in the region. He was also, by the end of his life, blind, imprisoned, and grinding grain for the people who hated him the most. That's not a fall from grace, that's a setup, and it was running longer than Samson ever knew. Now, to understand what Samson lost, you have to understand what he had. The Nazirite vow, a specific consecration described in Numbers 6. No wine, no contact with the dead, and no cutting off the hair. Not a superstition, a covenant. A physical, visible declaration that this person belonged to God in a very particular way. Samson's strength wasn't located in the hair. That's the popular version. The hair was the symbol. The covenant was the source. The vow was the connection point between Samson's ability and the one who gave it, which means Delilah wasn't just cutting hair. She was cutting the last visible thread of Samson's consecration. And Samson let her. Not once, not twice. 3 times she asked. 3 times he deflected with partial lies. The 4th time he told her everything. The text says she pressed him until he was vexed to death. This is a man who survived 1,000 enemies with a jawbone in his hand, worn down by persistent manipulation from someone he trusted. The Philistines didn't take Samson's strength. He handed it over, piece by piece, conversation by conversation, until there was nothing left to protect. What the Philistines did next is documented plainly in Judges 16. They gouged out his eyes, not a metaphor, not a theological symbol, though it becomes one. They removed his sight and brought him to Gaza, bound him with bronze chains, set him to grinding grain in the prison. The text notes quietly that his hair began to grow back. Nobody seemed to notice. The Philistines had what they wanted, the man who had terrorized their people for decades, humiliated and useful, a trophy that did labor. They celebrated with a feast in the temple of Dagon, their god. Thousands gathered. The text says 3,000 on the roof alone. They called for Samson to be brought out, that we may make sport of him, the text says. A victory display, the strongest man in the region, as entertainment. The thing they didn't account for, the God who consecrated Samson in the first place, was not done. Archaeological excavations of Philistine temples in the Gaza region have found a consistent structural feature. Roofs supported by 2 central pillars, close enough together that a man of significant strength, positioned between them, could apply lateral force to both simultaneously. Samson asked the servant leading him to place his hands on those pillars. Then he prayed, not a battle cry, not a declaration of vengeance. "O Lord God, remember me. Please strengthen me only this once, O God, that I may be avenged on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." This is the only recorded prayer of Samson's life, and the framing matters. He doesn't claim righteousness. He doesn't present his suffering as merit. He asked to be remembered. The answer was structural. So the pillars gave way. The text says Samson killed more in his death than in his life. 3,000 on the roof, more inside. The entire leadership of the Philistine military and religious establishment in one building gathered specifically to celebrate his defeat. Every major Philistine lord was present. This wasn't a crowd. This was the command structure of Israel's most powerful enemy, assembled in their own temple at the moment of what they believe was their total victory. And God used the man they were mocking to end them. Notice what the text doesn't say. It doesn't say Samson's great act of faith earned him his strength back. It doesn't say his suffering redeemed his failures. It says God answered one prayer from a blind man in chains in the last minute of his life. The outcome wasn't contingent on Samson's merit. It was contingent on God's timing, which, it turns out, had been running since before Samson was born. The book of Judges records Samson's birth with a very specific detail. An angel appeared to his mother before he was even conceived, before he existed, and announced that this child would begin the deliverance of Israel from the Philistines. Not complete it, begin it. Every choice Samson made, every failure, every woman, every moment of wasted potential, all of it existed inside a story that was already going somewhere. The collapse wasn't the end of a tragic life. It was the event the story had been building toward. The most terrifying, the most reassuring thing about that framing is the same. It means the outcome was never really in his hands. Learn hard, live loud. I'll see you in the next one.